Seattle Seahawks. This probably ain't going to take us very long, Stephen. Seattle Seahawks. It's still Pete Carroll. They did promote Clint Hurt from defensive line coach to be the defensive coordinator, so they did at least make one shakeup on the coaching staff there. Shane Waldron is back as offensive coordinator. As we know, Russell Wilson gone, Drew Lock in, Shelby Harris is gone, is in via trade. You also got Quentin Jefferson, Noah Fant is in via trade as well. Justin Coleman at corner, and also Artie Burns at corner. Out, the biggest names, of course, being Russell Wilson, Bobby Wagner gone. DJ Reed is also gone. Carlos Dunlap is gone. You got Kerry Hyder who's gone. Ethan Pochik is gone. So there's a lot of guys that left this team as well. Whenever they kind of saw the trajectory of where this thing was going, they decided to head elsewhere and get out of town. Now, they did have what I consider to be, if there is an upside to this team, would be a pretty good draft. Charles Cross in the first round, a guy that everybody thinks it could be a beast for a decade plus on the offensive line. They got Boye Mafe, a defensive end. Of course, we just mentioned all the defensive players that left this team, namely Carlos Dunlap, Bobby Wagner, needed to replace them, so he comes in. But here's, the most Seahawks thing, the most Pete Carroll thing ever. A roster that is so incredibly depleted, maybe one of the worst rosters in all of the NFL, and you spend your second round pick on a running back in Kenneth Walker. And I think Kenneth Walker's fine, Steven. I think he's a good running back and should have a good NFL career. But when your roster is so talent depleted like the Seahawks is, to spend a second round pick on a running back is just so egregious and lets you know the state of this organization right now. They get another offensive tackle in the third round. They get a corner in the fourth round. But boy, you look at this team and I want you to try and tell me what we're looking at from an upside perspective, because I literally find zero upside with this team. And people are going to say, hey, look, there's always upside if you have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett at wide receiver. Not if there's not somebody that can actually throw them the ball. I mean, like, wide receivers are only as good as the guy that can put it in at least somewhere in their catching radius, right? Like, that has to be somewhere around there. And I know for a fact that Drew Lock can't do that on a consistent basis. We've seen enough of him to know that. And if you have to go with Geno Smith, Lord help this organization. I am so incredibly down on this Seahawks.
Did you see this tweet from Louis Riddick? Quote, "I'm going to say what I have been saying for a while now. The Seahawks are building something special. It's been too obvious to me, made even more obvious seeing it up close today. They just have to figure out that one last position." Obviously, he's talking about quarterback. Are we missing something, Matt? Or is Lou Riddick just trying to get a GM job and get out of TV? What are we doing here?
Dude, that's just, it's pure insanity. Look, if we look at these units, right? And again, this is not the end-all be-all. The projection system has a team 30th overall, dead last, 32nd offense, 22nd defense. If we go down, 32nd rated offensive line heading into the season according to Pro Football Focus. They are starting rookies at both
building something
positions.
special, Matt. Building something special.
Like, if yes, I guess that is building, because you have rookies on the offensive line that 2 years from now, like when we see offensive linemen start to play well, they'll be 3-year guys at tackle, and that'll be great because you have good young tackles. But you're starting two rookies at the tackle positions. What are these quarterbacks going to do? I mean, like, it's like not even fair to begin the season. Then you have Gabe Jackson and Damian Lewis at the guard positions, who graded out at 51st and 57th at the position last year, respectively. So, I mean, this is the defensive line did not have a single player graded out higher than a 64 last season. They come in as the 29th graded defensive line heading into the year by Pro Football Focus. And the secondary, with all this talent that is not really there outside of Jamal Adams, is ranked 30th as we head into the season. So again, yes, point to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett all you want, and I agree. That is an awesome receiving duo. You add Noah Fant, that maybe could live up to his potential. He never really did in Denver, but maybe he can in Seattle. You got a pretty good trio then at that point. I will give you that. Steven, who gets them the ball on a consistent basis, not only from a talent perspective with Drew Lock or Geno Smith, but trying to throw the ball behind the worst offensive line in all the NFL and two rookie tackles. This is not fair for either one of these quarterbacks. and not fair for DK Metcalf, for Tyler Lockett, for all the stuff like that. So it's nearly impossible for me to try to find a bright spot and try to find a way that this team is not one of the very worst teams in the NFL.
Greg Olson had a cup of coffee there and then went back to being a TV analyst. He said, quote, the ideology there was always defense first, kicking game, punt the ball, field position, force turnovers, play defense first, then hand the ball to Russell Wilson at the end of the game and say, go be Magic, end quote. So, I mean, this is the mentality we're dealing with here. So the front office is stupid. They are top 5 in the league in running back spending and bottom 11 in spending on quarterback, offensive line, defensive line, and cornerback. Those positions are kind of a big deal when you're trying to draft and get better. Pete Carroll is stupid. First down run rate last year increased from 31% to 35%. Those runs went from a 36% success rate to a 30% success rate. In 12 personnel, 2 tight ends on the field, went from a 35% success rate to a 23% success rate. Despite these decreases in efficiency, Pete Carroll ran the ball 27 more times on first down rush plays last year than he did the year before. He is banging his head against the wall. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. They can't figure out that they don't know what they don't know.
Oh, it's for sure. And listen, here's the other thing. They've replaced the offensive coordinator twice in his tenure, Stephen. And do you want to know the interesting thing whenever they have replaced the offensive coordinator?
Can I guess they ran the ball more or something, or they passed it actually well the year before?
No, they passed it more. There was a slight uptick in passing percentage, and then the guy's out of town the next year because that doesn't fly with Pete Carroll. And so here we are again. I'll tell you guys, I bet an alt under on this team. I bet alt under 5. If you search around, you can find it. It's 4.5 at some places. You can find a 5, so you can at least get a push if they end up 5-11. I took the alt under. I love this bet, Steven. Find me the wins for this team.
Oh yeah,
on the schedule. They are going to be dogs. My guess is they are going to be dogs in every single game they play because they're going to be that bad. They might be favorites in a game or two all season long. And they are going to not have the talent in order to win football games. I love the alt under. I got 2-1 on the alt under for this team to have 4 or fewer wins. If it's a 5, it's a push for me. I love this bet. I feel great about this bet. It doesn't do this team any good further once we get down the stretch. And listen, you and I know the players are always going to play hard. The coaches are always going to coach hard. The front office is going to do what the front office needs to do to make this team better. It's not going to behoove this team to win games down the stretch after they're already miserably bad. They're going to need to draft a franchise quarterback. They are going to need to get one of these top guys that's coming out this year in what looks to be a stellar quarterback crop for the draft that's coming up. So they don't even want to win games down the stretch because you want one of those top picks so you can get the quarterback that you want to build around if they are building, as Louis Riddick says, and via tweet, as you said. So if they are building, you got to have a quarterback to build around. And so they need to be at the top of the draft. So I think this team and the Bears, I think, are the worst 2 teams in the NFL. I think they will be battling for the worst records in the NFL, and it would not surprise me at all if it ends up being. You
mentioned the alt under. You could still, if you don't want to be that aggressive, you could still find plus 120 on under 5.5 and still cash it at 5 wins.
Oh.
I mean, oh baby, that sounds juicy to me. And then on top of that, just to tell everybody, explain how difficult the schedule is, because it doesn't quite measure as one of the top 10 hardest by opponent win totals. But when you're comparing it against the Seahawks, my God, where are the wins? Of their 17 games, 10 are against the AFC West, twice against the 49ers, twice against the Rams, the Chargers, the Bucks, And we haven't even mentioned trips to Arizona and New Orleans yet. That would make 12 of 17 games. So the market I kind of like, you want to get even more aggressive than your alt under. You're getting more than double the odds of Atlanta and Houston for the Seahawks to have the worst record at 9-1. 9-1 that they have the worst record. So I mean, it's a crapshoot on who's going to be in that group. But that price seems off to me, Matt.
Absolutely. I love that one as well. I might go try to find that one to get into the account as well. I am not more bearish on any team in the NFL than I am the Seattle Seahawks as we enter this football season.